sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter here pending?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Please have a seat in the witness box and state your name again for the court reporter.
Officer Pat Sikorsky.
Okay.
SIKORSKY.
All right. Ms. Peterman,
Yes, Your Honor.
you may proceed.
Officer Sikorsky, could you please state your occupation for the court?
Certainly. I'm the director of the Midlands Department of Criminal Investigation, a position I've held since 2010. In the decade beforehand, I'd worked as a criminalist at the same laboratory.
What is your background or experience in your field?
Well, barring my previous experience, I hold a dual PhD in biology and chemistry from Washington University in St. Louis. I received my bachelor's in chemistry and leadership from the University, from Marshall University. In addition, I also teach classes for both graduates and undergraduates in DNA analysis at Midland State.
And has your work ever been published, Officer Sikorsky?
Oh, certainly. I've published over 28 peer-reviewed journals on the analysis of trace evidence, DNA analysis, as well as the presentation of forensic evidence to those without a forensic background, such as jurors. In addition, I'm also the consultant for and the basis of the protagonist for Crime Scene Investigation Midlands.
And how are you involved in today's case, Officer Sikorsky?
Well, you see, I received a briefcase from the officer who had arrested Chase Covington, which had apparently been on Chase Covington's person at the time of the arrest. I performed forensic testing on that briefcase.
What kind of tests did you run?
Well, there were three kinds of evidence on this briefcase. There were fingerprints on the outside of the briefcase, hair follicles found within the briefcase, and then a single fragrant stain found on the inside of the briefcase. For the fingerprints, I performed an ACEV method, which is simply analysis, comparison, evaluation, and a verification test. For the hair strands, I simply used a visual comparison test as well as a mitochondrial DNA test. And for the fragrant stain, I simply performed a GCMS test.
And are these tests standard procedure in your field?
Certainly. All of these tests have been reviewed nationally and have been confirmed to be the standard for forensic evidence testing.
Did you implement these tests and methods reliably in coming to your conclusions?
As I've done so for the last decade and a half.
And did you have sufficient facts and data to back up your conclusions?
I did.
Okay, so I'd like to talk about the first type of testing you did on the briefcase, and that was the fingerprint analysis. Can you explain to the court a little about that test?
Certainly. You see, the ridges and furrows of the human finger form a print that is both unique and permanent. It allows forensics like myself to pick them up from evidence and then compare them to those fingerprints within the national database. Now, if these fingerprints match at 16 points of comparison, then I know without a doubt that they belong to the person that I'm matching them with.
Were you able to make any matches in today's trial?
I was, yes, 6 fingerprints.
And what were the results of these matches?
4 of the fingerprints I found belonged to Avery Bancroft. 2 of them belonged to Chase Covington. All of these fingerprints met or went beyond the necessary standards for verification.
Officer Sikorsky, if I were to show you a picture of the briefcase in question, would that be helpful in pointing out for the jury the location of the fingerprints you found?
It would, yes.
Let the record reflect I am approaching opposing counsel with prosecution exhibit 2. Permission to approach the witness?
Yes.
And would Your Honor like a copy?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Officer Sikorsky, what is prosecution exhibit 2?
This is the briefcase I used for my forensic testing.
Does it appear to be a fair and accurate copy?
It is.
And does it appear to have been altered in any way since you tested this briefcase?
It has not been.
At this time, prosecution moves to admit exhibit 2 into evidence.
Is there any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, it's received.
Officer Sikorsky, where did you find the fingerprints of Avery Bancroft?
For the fingerprints of Avery Bancroft, I found one here on the handle and one here on the latch. Both of these fingerprints were 16 points and therefore met the necessary standards for verification. Interestingly, the two fingerprints found here and here on either side of the briefcase were 19-point matches and therefore went above and beyond the necessary standards.
And where did you find the fingerprints of Chase Covington?
Both of the fingerprints of Chase Covington were found here and here on the handle of the briefcase. Both of these were also 16-point matches, therefore fulfilling the necessary standards for verification.
What were you able to conclude from the placement of these fingerprints?
Well, let me be clear. Forensic evidence cannot tell you when exactly an individual touched a piece of evidence. It can, however, tell you without a doubt that both Avery Bancroft and Chase Covington at one point in time did in fact have in their possession this briefcase.
Now I'd like to talk about the second type of testing you did, the hair analysis. Can you
Certainly.
explain to the court a little about that test?
Well, it's quite simple, really. For the hair analysis, I performed a simple visual comparison, in which case I looked at the hair strands I found within the briefcase to those found in the residences of the suspects. The mitochondrial DNA testing is a little bit more complicated, so it simply allows me to trace an individual down their matrilineal line. In this case, all of the hair follicles belong to those of Avery Bancroft.
What were you able to conclude from this test?
Quite simply, all of the hair follicles I found within the briefcase were those belonging to Avery Bancroft.
No further questions, Your Honor. Permission to retrieve Exhibit 2
Yes, certainly.
and publish to the jury?
Yes, you may.
Would you like another copy?
I'll share it with the jury.